Okay, we're live. We're ready to go. Welcome to Be the Leader Live. On this show, we go over everything leadership. I do react videos. I go over leadership quotes. I talk about, leadership books. In this episode, I'm going to go over some leadership books. I'm your host, Mike Cornwell, and welcome to this show. This was recorded live in the mountains in Tennessee. And what I do is this show, I record it live, usually on a Monday about this time. But it's, whenever I'm kind of ready, get the show together. And then I post the show every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. I've got a couple updates, for you today. Got a new microphone. Trying to use some better, higher quality cameras. Here soon, the studio is going to be complete. I'm going to show some pictures of that here in a little bit. And I'm getting ready to start a new product. I'm so pumped about this course that I'm building. So I've been trying to launch Sanctuary Leadership for about a year and a half now. It's taken quite a while to get to this point. I've created one course that's available right now on the website. Depending on who you are, you might have to do some weird navigation to get to it, but it's a great course. I need to repackage it up and put it out there better. But this next one is the one-on-one course that I've really been looking to make for quite some time. It's called the Leadership Awakening course. And this course is designed to turn young adults into leaders extremely fast. So I'll have some updates as I go on through that. And I'll present it here, and you'll see some updates on it. I cannot wait for this course. It's going to be kind of the culmination of many years of work, and I'm excited to bring it forward. Before we go any forward, I didn't want to forget the fact that I just released a new book on how leadership actually works. It's called Influence in Leadership. You can get this book today on Amazon, or you can head over to my website. I've got a link, down below in the description notes, and you can find out how to actually get a free copy. Influence in Leadership it's a book. It's a definitive treatise on earning and expending influence to becoming a leader. In the book, I lay out everything in really simple, plain English, the foundations, the strategies, the tactics, everything that you need to develop the leadership skills. And this is for any context, whether that's interpersonal relationships, it's at home, you're leading in a workplace, or even on a battlefield. The reality is leadership is the same across the board. I have to tell you, you have to stop leading unconsciously. Study and apply the fundamentals of leadership now in everything that you do. If you think about it, because every person operates using influence, it means that every human action ultimately involves leadership. You can pick up a copy today on Amazon or head over to influencealeadershipbook.com and pick up a copy today. The link for this can be found down in the show notes. I want to kick this off with a story that came up kind of really recently. It was drawn to my attention, and I wanted to raise the awareness to you personally. So in my book, I write a little bit about force and fear, and I kind of realized I need to write a lot more on this topic. And one of the things that I've become acutely aware of since writing this book, I spend a lot of time doing kind of slow down and see what actually happens to me. So different, I've become aware of these different forces. An example is I can tell when somebody's trying to use influence on me, and particularly when they're trying to use coercive influence on me. I have become, while I may have been a little sensitive to it in the past, I've become very sensitive to it now, to the point where I can see it happening right in front of me, and I'll call it out. It's just this awareness that I've been building, and with awareness, as you build awareness about awareness, you start to become aware of all sorts of things. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was force and fear, and particularly fear. One of the things that I've noticed in the last year, I was playing around with a couple different concepts of launching sanctuary leadership. And one of the things that I wanted to do that I came across from kind of like an online, sales mentor was about creating a Facebook group, and not a group, a page. And on the page, you make it kind of, some of the context doesn't really matter. But it's not a page about yourself, and it's not really a group, but it's about an identity. And the title of the group is supposed to represent the identity of the person. And so people join this, they start following this page, and you post content related to this identity, and you kind of help people build this identity. And so when I thought about this, I was like, you know what? The perfect title for this would be I Am a Leader. So I've got this podcast is called Be the Leader, because it's my core message of being the leader in anything and everything that you do. But I started this group, or this page, called I Am a Leader. And I'll tell you, just as plainly as I can tell you now, I became highly aware of the fact that I had fear of even coming out and saying that. And even to you now, maybe a little bit less now, but coming out and saying, I am a leader. For some reason, I have to tell you, for the last 3 or 4 years, this has been a fear, just like this little micro fear in the back of my brain, to come out and actually say these things as a nature of my identity. Some people, I guess, are real easy about doing this, but I've just kind of walked into this and kind of stepped forward. And so I was creating this group, and it's called I'm a Leader, which you can go and find out there on Facebook. I haven't posted it in a little while, but the entire time I felt completely, not completely, I had felt plenty of fear and low confidence to actually post underneath that and go and do that. And I come to the realization that many people might also have that problem with that topic, saying, I am a leader. So one thing I might mention to you now, you should say, I'm a leader. You should say it out loud. And if you feel tingles of like, well, I don't know, that's a great reason to say it again. You got to tell people this. You got to say it out loud. You got to say it to people. You got to overcome these fears. And the whole purpose of the story of telling you about this is to make you like really aware of the fact that there's all sorts of things that you're fearful about even right now. And we're talking like micro fears. We're not talking about, the fear of, you have a nightmare of you walking around your old high school with no pants on. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like little micro fears that will prevent you from doing the things that you ought to do, that are slightly moving and influencing and controlling you. I know all sorts of people who have fear about a lot of things. Money is a perfect example. People will do, one of the most common behaviors that you can find that people will do is when there's free money out there, people will change what they're doing to try to attract that free money. And I got to tell you, it's really not a good idea to go and chase free money. And the reason is more often than not, that money, whomever's providing that money, they have an agenda to steer you and your behavior in a particular capacity. And I'm not going to say that that's a horrible thing, that's a bad thing. You might believe that. That's fine. I believe it from time to time. But I'm just going to say that's neutral. Put that to the side. What I am going to say is, more than likely, it isn't for you. And as a result, your behavior is actually being shifted in the wrong direction. So where you're going isn't what that thing is intending, but it's the free money part. It's actually the meaning behind it. That's just the what. The meaning is, I'm not going to make it unless I go after these low-hanging opportunities. I'm telling you now, be very careful about that. This is about fear. Just micro doses of fear that are driving us. So, I am the leader. I had maybe a little bit of difficulty saying it before, but I'm going to say it now. I am definitely a leader. And this podcast here, this show live, Be the Leader, it's encouraging you to be the leader in overcoming any of these kind of fears that you might have. What we're going to jump into, I'm not going to do 20 million React videos like I have done, but I am going to do, maybe one, maybe two today. And I came across this YouTube channel and I was shocked. Shocked because they're doing so many things that I really liked. There's some things I don't really like about their channel, but that's kind of like what I'm trying to do and my approach and what I'm looking to do, but they're very similar. It's a channel called Charisma on Command. So let me switch to this channel. Okay, this is it right here. I have no idea who owns this channel. These two strapping gentlemen that are at the top here, but they have 6 million subscribers. That's a lot of subscribers, I'm not going to lie. And they've been uploading videos for about 6 years now. Now, what they do, and pretty much all of their videos look exactly the same. It looks like they're putting out about 2 videos a month. And they seem to be pretty well produced videos. But the thing I'm not crazy about, so this is all kind of, we'll call it clickbaity. It may not be the nicest way to describe it, but it's kind of clickbaity. And what they're doing is on these different pages, they kind of break down like a single concept. And what they're trying to do ultimately is improve your charisma. Now, my biggest problem with them is they keep talking about charisma, but they're actually talking about leadership and influence, but they're calling it charisma. Maybe this is like a good sales approach to talking about this, but I'll say right now, it's not charisma. It's actually leadership. And charisma, a small skill in the realm of leadership. But so their approach, and we're gonna dip into one of these random videos, is they normally take movies and they try to describe what's happening. And they explain some sort of thing about it. I'm very skeptical about the value of these videos, and the reason is actors are when you're watching something that's acting. They like to say that they're having you suspend belief. And so you suspend belief if they do their job really well. The reality is the impact that a movie has compared to real life is they're not even close. They're not even close. And so at some point in time, I'm going to open Sanctuary Leadership as a physical school so you can physically see people, that you can do what my business mentor says is swapping molecules. You cannot swap molecules with a digital copy of something. So even watching this, there's only so much you're going to get out of this. But if you were here in real life and I were talking, I'd be able to poke you with some energies that, like, you can feel it. Like, you can feel the energy on your skin popping when real things are happening. It is completely different than movies. So that's my one comment about this. So let's choose one. What I want to do is I want to choose the one that is like most leadership looking and do this. And a lot of these are like little tactics. So let's see here. Let's see here. Let's do this ridiculous one of copy this habit. Okay, so let's see here.
From renter to owner in 32 days. They really are dream workers.
Gotta have the commercials.
Brush your teeth in 30 seconds with this incredible $89 device. This is an extremely high-tech $600 professional tooth.
Breaking Bad has one of the best character transformations in TV history. We watch Walter White go from a weak-looking pushover to a powerful presence who commands respect.
A guy opens his door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks.
While you definitely don't want to be...
If you haven't seen this show, it's an addicting show. I waited a very long time to watch it because I knew it was very good. And I've kind of come to realize that TV has become so engrossingly addicting that I tend to stay away from TV as much as possible. But I did watch the show, and it was pretty good.
Walt in every way. There are 4 habits you can learn from him to...
Good in the sense of entertaining, but not necessarily good as in I approve of the show by any stretch of the imagination. Or that it's realistic, or that you should necessarily learn anything from it. So we'll see. We'll see what they have to say.
and feel extremely confident in any situation.
You're goddamn right.
And even though Breaking Bad is a scripted TV show, all the psychology covered in today's video will apply to your actual life.
Yeah, scripted
First
TV
thing
show.
Walt did to stop looking weak was learn to project confidence with his body language. We see this for the first time when he stands up to a guy who's bullying his disabled son.
I'll mess you up, man. Well, you'll have one shot. You better make it good. Huh? What are you waiting for your girlfriends? You better go. You better go. Take it. Take your shot.
Even though the odds are against him, he projects that he's confident he's going to win. But be careful here. This is an area where you don't want to blindly copy Walt. You won't command respect by starting fights or taunting people. You'll just
definitely not.
seem like a jerk. And you might get your ass kicked. What you can learn from Walt is his eye contact during conflict. Walt projects massive confidence because in high pressure situations, he holds eye contact.
If you think that I am capable of doing this.
Walt seems to have a pretty clear rule for eye contact during conflict. Don't break first. Here's an example.
Stay out of my territory.
Now, there's nuance to this. If you never break eye contact during conflict, you risk creating more hostility. In real life, any of these situations could easily result in you getting badly hurt. This is why most people make submissive eye contact, often breaking to look down, because they fear conflict. Walt originally had submissive eye contact, and you'll notice it gives you a very different impression of who he is.
What's she talking about? Walt?
If you want to diffuse tension without looking weak or creating more hostility, hold eye contact for 3 to 4 seconds and then break to the side instead of down. Beyond eye contact, actor Bryan Cranston has actually gone on record saying there was one small physical change he made to transform the impression you get of Walt. He simply stood with his shoulders back and his chest out. It seems like a small change, but those little tweaks to eye contact and posture give you a much more powerful presence. Beyond body language, you can also command more respect by changing how you speak. Part of what makes Walt look nervous early on is when he speaks very quickly. Like here, when he's nervous, he'll get caught by his wife.
Ditch it, man. Calling sick.
Listen, that is just not going to work for me. I'm not interested in that at all. And I would appreciate it if you...
I don't know if I take... see, so the eye contact, I would definitely say that eye contact is... There is a lot to eye contact, but I don't know if I would, I'm not really going into depth about this, but I would say eye contact has more to do with focus than anything else. And it's also probably more indicative of your intent. But dominating any social situation, this is just not true. To some extent it is true, but I have seen more than once. How would I say this? Sometimes the big dog in the room ain't even looking at anybody in the room. If you think about it, a person who is confident, capable, and competent, they're going to focus in the ways that they know needs to happen. And in this case, they're talking about Breaking Bad, these hostile situations. Perhaps what they're saying is true, but how to dominate any social situation. Okay, well, now what if it's not a hostile situation? Should you be looking eye contact? I would say eye contact is highly aggressive. Oftentimes for example, in a meeting, yeah, you might look at people and direct the attention, but it might be a different kind of meeting where you're really trying to mull things. You're trying to think things over. I can tell you right now, if you're thinking, you don't think with your eyeballs. You actually focus. You put kind of limelight and intention on people. You put a spotlight on people when you use their eyeballs. But that doesn't mean you think. So if you're in a situation and you're thinking, you might do one of these numbers. I don't know what they mean by dominate. I mean, highly aggressive, be agitating, pretty much everything that they said that, you shouldn't be or whatever. Yeah, I would definitely say eye contact. Eye contact, super important, but it's more like a spotlight type thing. Not necessarily what I would call being the leader. Use your eyes how they need to be used. Be a little bit conscious of it and try not to just look away out of fear. You probably don't want to do that.
Don't call here anymore.
Contrast that with these next two clips where Walt's more confident. He has a slow speaking cadence and uses pauses between words to hold attention. The pause is the moment when you're not speaking, and ironically, that's the moment that pulls people in. Specifically, if you pause at the moment people most want to hear what you have to say.
In your position, I would have done the same.
Jesse, you asked me if I was in the meth business or the money business. Neither. I'm in the empire business.
Now, speaking like this is much easier to do if you genuinely feel confident. So,
maybe there is some truth to the cadence. You know what? I should be doing this kind of stuff. There is some truth to the cadence and the camber of what you say and how people listen to it and dominate any social situation. You know what they're not saying here? Let me see if I can zoom out. No, okay. Yeah. What he's not capturing here, talking about when you're talking to people, it might be talking last. I would say more often than not, regardless of what you say and the cadence that you choose, which super important. It has less to do with dominating a situation and more to do with the fact that you're influencing the pace and the focus of what's being listened to, you know, what's being communicated. I would say almost more important than this is when you speak in a lineup. If you're trying to have a social, if you're trying to dominate a social situation, whatever that really means by dominate, which again, I'm not really sure what charisma has to do with dominating, but if you want to be an influential person in a social circumstance, you really need to speak last. Part of the reason why you might speak last, it's just a real simple trick here. You get to comment on what everybody else says. And so you seem like and appear to be the person who's thinking about it. And I say seem like and appear because you are. You've heard everybody, which means you get the chance to synthesize. Synthesizing is powerful. Because now you're pulling from there, you're pulling from there, you're pulling from there, different viewpoints, and all of a sudden you get to say, this must be the case. I'm hearing people say X. And trust me, people will listen big time. Because for one, you're repeating back what they're saying. But I'm not going to go too much into my techniques. Let's pay attention. Let's watch this video and see what else we got here.
How can you actually be more confident in situations that normally make you nervous? And why is it believable to the audience that Walter White can go from a chemistry teacher with no confidence to someone who's able to stay confident while he's surrounded by gangsters ready to kill him?
Probably because he did it a bunch of times.
Tell me what you want.
$50,000. 35 for the pound of meth you stole, and another 15 for my partner's pain and suffering.
If you haven't watched the show, Walt recently learned he has terminal cancer. Now that he knows he's dying, he feels he has nothing to be afraid of. It might not seem like it, but this is actually something we can all learn from, hopefully in a safer, healthier way than cooking meth. Because we're all going to die eventually. This is one of Stoic philosophy's most important teachings. Memento mori, remember you will die. This isn't meant to depress you, but to help you build Stoic courage to live life fully. If you remember your time on Earth is short, it can free you to take the risk, approach the beautiful person in the bar, ask for the promotion, quit the job you hate. Don't be reckless, but live the life you want while you have the chance. Building Stoic confidence can be as simple as setting a phone reminder each morning to...
So, I agree. This is actually a pretty important topic to understand, that there's all these things we want in life. There's things we want. I think this is like the basics of influence and leadership itself, that it's baked into us. There's things that we want. Sometimes we just want our kids to be quiet. Sometimes we want a new house. Sometimes we want to have a clean room. There's all sorts of things that we want. And these are the things that influence us. Now, the reality is you have only so much time to obtain these wants and these desires. And you need during that time, you also need to gain a healthy relationship with these wants and desires. It's a separate topic. It's a little bit more on the spirituality side. That is in that space of spirituality, of understanding the role and, some sort of kind of healthy relationship with these. But what I want to get across here is, they're talking about death as a centering aspect to doing the things you ought to do. Consider for a moment that right now in this world, at least in the Western world, I can't say anything about living in Kenya. I don't live there. But in the Western world and many of the different, things like, Japan and Asia and stuff like that, the world is actually conforming around to us, believe it or not. It might take you quite a while to realize this, but our good and bad desires, got to throw that out there, good and bad desires, the world is conforming around them, oftentimes to, like, everything is trying to like fit with this cohesion together, and the world is bending around to these things, to each one of us. And the reality is, if you are dumbing down your desires, or you are amplifying your negative wants and desires up, you're gonna get those things. I mean, there's a saying out there. If you read the Gospels, it makes it very crystal clear that how would I want to say this? I'm not the best with memorizing quotes, but in the Gospels, it's made clear that, knock and it shall be opened unto you. If you push out there, if you actually push these things, the door will open. These things will happen. And, this is multi-thousand-year-old sage knowledge. And I mean, isn't it, not going to be open unto you, ask and you shall be given. Sorry if you're much more intelligent with the Bible than I am, but there's something truly baked into our reality about this. And I know I'm going long-winded about this, but the reality that they're trying to point out here is you should go towards the actual things that you want. You should go towards them. And you should make them known and project them out there, because then they can happen. If you dumb those down, if you water those things down, you will get the watered down version of them, which is the compromisey things. Here's a great quote for you. One of my favorite kind of loudmouth motivators out there online is named Eric Thomas. And I'll have to do a video with Eric Thomas sometime. But Eric Thomas has this great quote: go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And what that means, it's just like what they're showing here in this video. You need to go to places where the things that you want and desire in life, people are like, yeah, that's awesome. And if you're not there, you need to go there. If you try to make where you're at conform around those things, and it's not like the environment, I know I said that the environment will kind of curve around it, depending on the distance and depending on how much energy you put out towards it. But there are places out there that are more welcoming of your ideas and who you are. You need to fit into those spots more so than ever before in human history. And if everything that you do gets watered down and you're always compromising, wrong. Leadership and influence is a real thing, and this is critical towards it. So let's go back to this video.
Meditate on Memento Mori for just a few minutes. Ask yourself, how would you live differently if you knew you were going to die in 5 years? What about 1 year?
So, okay, question.
You don't have to start living like you're going to die in a week, but it can help you find the confidence to prioritize what's important.
Prioritize what's important.
You really want to live.
Yes.
Now, while Memento Mori is the reason Walt can be so calm under pressure, that mindset alone wouldn't have helped him survive for long in the meth world. And especially after his cancer goes into remission, Walt definitely does not want to die. You see this in season 3. His life is threatened and he does not stay calm.
If I could just talk to Gus, I know I can make him understand. Please, if I could talk to Gus, I can convince him, okay? Just let me, please let me talk to him. Shut up! Shut up.
The context here is that Walt's bosses have found a new meth cook. Now that they don't need Walt, they're going to kill him. But watch how the power dynamic shifts once Walt sends his partner Jesse to kill the new meth cook.
Just what the hell was that? Exactly. You might want to hold off. Yeah? Why? Because your boss is gonna need me. 6353 Juan Tabo, apartment 6.
This highlights the real reason Walt was able to be fearless for so much of Breaking Bad. He's irreplaceable. He makes the best meth, and everyone knows it.
You all know exactly who I am.
Be irreplaceable. Great advice. I don't care what it is. Has nothing to do. I don't know if it's anything to do with social situations, but just important.
And his irreplaceable skill that give him power and respect in almost every situation. And while Breaking Bad is a fictional show, that dynamic is very real. If your employer or clients think you're irreplaceable, they'll do anything to keep you. This is true in a romantic partnership as well. The frustrating part for many people is what actually makes someone irreplaceable. It often doesn't seem fair. The hardest worker doesn't always get promoted, and the nicest person doesn't always get the most dates. That's because for most people, getting what you want in life is actually a mix of two things: your ability and your ability to make people like you and respect you. That's the power of charisma. When you have it, the world suddenly opens up for you. If that's something you want, you may like our program, Charisma University.
Okay, now I gotta pause it. Okay. Now this is where I do the extreme disagreeing. I completely agree on irreplaceable. I completely disagree about how you become irreplaceable. The person who works the hardest doesn't get it. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I don't even know how this is getting perpetrated out there, but the reality is the people who were like, think about it, invaluable, irreplaceable. Irreplaceable actually means invaluable. And invaluable means it's difficult to just put a value on it. And why is that? And the reason is because they're doing things at such a level that other people can't really, it's the only way I can describe it. And this is not fullest, but if a person's up here and then a person is judging them who is down there, they do not have the capacity to judge the person at the level that they are actually at. This is just the truth about something. So somebody who were to come to me and talk to me about computers who is not at my level, they will not be able to judge or understand. They may actually see my actions completely out of light and think maybe, well, I don't know what I'm talking about. And that's where they're wildly wrong. But here's the thing. I've become irreplaceable so many times now in the technology space that I can speak with extreme authority on this. In fact, I have made it, I think actually since my first job, I set it as a goal. Now that I think about it, I set it as my goal to become irreplaceable and so valuable within 1 year. I knew taking the job within like a month of taking the job, that within 9 months to a year, maybe it was a year and a half, I was actually going to be moving to the other side of the country. And from that, it was my goal during that time to become so valuable that they would let me work from home, even though nobody worked from home. So I accomplished that, and I worked from home for 5 years while everybody else went into the office and nobody batted an eye about it. Now, eventually other people got to work a little more from home, but that's a different topic. How is it actually done? It's not this nonsense. What these people are saying is absolute nonsense. It has nothing to do with charisma. It has to do with your command over the subject, over the space, to the point where somebody isn't going to tell you the way that it is. And the only way you get that is by outworking every person. It's the exact opposite to what they said. The hardest worker, look, it may not be the case that somebody who puts in the most hours, just generally the most hours, and is the most one-sided about like this business, just this thing or whatever, is going to come out on top. That's true, but you will never out-influence somebody who you haven't outworked. There's a reason why Elon Musk is a perfect example of this. Elon Musk, as far as I can tell from what I can see about his story, Elon Musk went from basically obscure outside of like the tech entrepreneur space, like at the time, like kind of the micro tech entrepreneur space, to becoming the richest person on planet Earth. And I can tell you, he didn't do that sitting on a yacht kicking his hands back and doing nothing. It's the exact opposite. And this is the absurdity of stupid messages like this. And I just got to say it. Charisma University, you were just dead wrong. You're just wrong. He didn't get there by, dreaming of passive income, of like sitting back. He worked his freaking tail off. On top of that, put in more hours than anyone else. So did he work harder? Did he work hard? Yeah, he did. He did. And it's obvious. Like, we live in this world in which people are they're so fluid in the topics they talk about, which is one of the things I wanted to see about this Charisma University. We'll go watch another one. They're pretty short. People are so fluid in these topics that they talk about that they seemingly can't tell when somebody is everybody seems to be at that same level, this like meaty stupid on every topic. Whether it's politics, whether it's finances, whether it's business, whether it's education, influence, leadership, charisma, it does not matter what it is. Everybody has this kind of like just average level knowledge. They can't see the fact that by people who put in extraordinary amount of time on things, they're jumping out of that space and they're jumping into the stratosphere that no one else even sees at all. The reason why I started Sanctuary, I guess say this just again and again. The reason why I started Sanctuary Leadership, the reason why I wrote books like Influence and Leadership, the reason why I created this podcast is so I can scream from the freaking rooftops about this topic, about how poor people execute influence and leadership every day. They can't see that there's literally this magic that connects people together. And it's skills. It's just basic skills. It's basic skills. It's been with people since the beginning of time. This is the skill that binds people together. Study it and use it, and it will serve you for the rest of your life. I promise you. I tripled my income in a year and a half by applying leadership with intention. I literally started moving people way over, like I've been influencing people a long time. And one of the things, now I'm getting ranty. One of the things that I have done that I've always been really good at is just having this kind of like, I've had this ability to shatter this mental barrier that connects me to other people. And I would be very overt about it. I would tell people like, hey, I'm going to talk about all the topics you're not supposed to talk about on the first time we meet. So I'm the kind of person that would go to a college party and I would talk about, I'm going to hear about your abortion stance. Not because I care about abortion. I just want to break that topic so that I could talk to you about real topics, because abortion is not a real topic. I'm sorry. All these people who are like waving flags about abortion, dude, these are not real topics. These are the kind of topics, literally, if it's something that is served up in a freshman college classroom, not a real topic. This is not a real topic. Why people are so average and the averages keep getting worse, that's a real topic. The reason why I say it's not a real topic is these are the things that people will tell you. They'll tell you. They're not going to get real deep. You know what's a real topic? The fact that somebody is performing at like 40% of their capability because they have their mind stuck on the fact that family at home is doing ill at health. That's a real topic. Abortion. It's not a real topic. Real topic is these topics. These are the topics that actually impact people. And trust me, getting to that topic on a first conversation, that is hard. Talking about all these topics that most people talk about are easy to do. If it can be done on Joe Rogan on the first go around, it's not a real topic. And I mention this because seeing this barrier and trying to shatter it allows me to get in there. Now, I've been doing that for a long time, but it was not until I started taking a leadership mind and seeing like kind of the giant world of leadership that all of a sudden I started seeing like how to become invaluable. And leaders are invaluable. John Maxwell has this saying that, like a confident leader never has to worry about job, like having a job, that their job is always secure. That's what it was. Their desire to create and bring other leaders up never has any impact on them because they don't believe that, they believe that their job is always secure. I'm telling you, it is. Why that matters is becoming invaluable gets you to that point. You think, like, dude, I'm in the space of computers, automating every daggum thing I possibly can from other people, myself, and so on, and making it so easy that it's like, I'm trying to create tools so that people that don't know anything about computers, they can use those tools and it just works like magic. That's the real goal of somebody who's in the technology space. You do that, you might think, well, if I do this automation, they're not going to hire me anymore. Nonsense. They will throw you on every single task because no one's willing to do it. It's about becoming invaluable, irreplaceable. That's the way they describe it. Irreplaceable. 100%. A person who is in any, how to dominate any social circumstance. I'm going to say this and then we're going to move on. How to dominate any social situation is super simple. Be the leader. Adopt the mindset that when you're around these people, you go, I am the leader. And what would the leader do in this circumstance? You know what they're first going to do? Say nothing. They're going to watch and see what's going on. Because if you pull back, like what a leader really does is looking at, they're sitting at, I can't move too far away from the mic. They're sitting far back from the actual situation and they're seeing what's happening. And they're seeing the blockers and they're seeing what's happening with people and they're pulling these things out of the way or they're inserting things in. You cannot do that if you talk all the time. You cannot do it if you're spending all your time playing eyeball games looking at people. Sometimes you might need to close your eyes and look away from people so that they don't influence you so that you can actually say the thing that they're all reacting. That's another thing. They're all reacting. And if they're all reacting, you got to pull away from the reaction so that you can say, I like the pause thing. There's a lot of power in pauses. So you can say the thing that they can't even think because they're reacting. You will never come to those conclusions if you don't stop, think, take it all in, and then say something. You want to dominate any social situation? Be the leader. Okay, let's see this. How to impress someone of a higher status.
Become a better creator with Motion Away.
Always the ads.
Get templates, music.
Guess when you got 6 million subscribers, you definitely want the ads.
A phone plan by Google. Switch and save big.
Let's see how many people have seen this. 200,000 views in 1 year. That's impressive.
In today's video, you'll learn 5 steps that will help you connect with and then impress anyone, no matter how unreachable they may seem.
Okay.
We'll do this by breaking down some tricks used by Mr. Beast, Tim Ferriss, and Yes Theory to connect with people like Will Smith, Justin Trudeau, Elon Musk, and more.
I'm going to pause this for 2 seconds. You who is not named, can we talk about what skills you have? What you actually know? Rather than your armchair analysis?
Start, you need to get on the person's radar. The easiest way to do this is to find a low traffic connection, a less in-demand person who knows the person you're trying to meet. Because they have fewer people asking for their time, they'll be more open to talking with you. For a concrete example, let's look at Tim Ferriss. He attributes his success in large part to the connections he made at South by Southwest. Listen to his strategy.
When a panel ended, instead of flooding the scene to get in line to talk to a panelist, I would actually talk to the moderator, who people tend to ignore.
This is a great strategy for networking events and conferences, but it's also
not a bad idea for networking. It has nothing to do with impressing someone of higher status.
For instance, because most people think of Charlie as the face of Charisma on Command, he receives hundreds of emails a day.
Oh, there you go, Charlie.
Most have to go unread. But for years, if you emailed me, it was almost guaranteed that I would see it, and I could then forward it along to Charlie if I thought he'd want to see it too. I probably just ruined my inbox by sharing this, so now you'll need a new low traffic connection for Charlie, but the principle still stands. It's important to note here, a low traffic connection won't automatically introduce you just because you ask. So how do you get someone to want to make a connection for you? There are 2 ways to do this, and if you do either well enough, you can even skip step 1. The first way is to be a beacon. Do cool people want to be a part of.
Yeah, totally
For
agree.
instance, Will Smith accepted Yes Theory's challenge to Hella Dive because he knew it would get their channel more attention.
I love what you guys are doing, and I want to support that as much as possible.
This is one great way to be a beacon. Have a project that helps people outside of yourself.
So I'm going to just go ahead and call it out there. That's called leadership. That's leadership. That's what it, I mean, it's right there. It's hidden in plain sight. Like literally people talk about it, but they don't have this is like some tip, a tip to how to impress someone of higher status. It's called leading people. Leading people are influenced by people who are leading, and leading always has calling a project. It's called a vision that helps people other than themselves. Funny how it works. Be a leader.
This is how the Buried Life guys were able to play basketball with Obama when he was one of the most in-demand people on the planet. It's also how Mr. Beast caught Elon Musk's attention. Elon liked Jimmy's mission to protect the environment.
Well, when we did Team Trees, so our goal was 20 million and we hit like 6 million in the first few days and it started to slow down. And then out of nowhere, Elon Musk just replied to one of my tweets and he's just like, oh, this looks interesting. Then Elon just donated $1 million and then all of a sudden now the world cares and it's like paying attention.
It may seem like being a beacon requires a huge audience, but that's not the case at all. Sometimes being a beacon can just mean being the most fun-looking person in the room. When Yes Theory wanted to meet Justin Trudeau, their plan centered mostly around getting his staff's attention by wearing bright, fun Christmas sweaters to an event.
If you stick around a place long enough and look ridiculous, people just come up to you.
Yeah, so true. I like this. I love these kind of hacks. It's one of the reasons why I wear a hat. You wear clothes. Other people have this kind of connection, and everybody knows it's kind of weird to like wear these clothes or these whatever. It sticks out. It just works in your favor, and they have enough confidence to do it.
You've been dubbed the sweater guys.
Oh, I so regret not wearing my awesome sweater.
If being a beacon seems daunting, there's another fast, simple way you can connect with anyone you admire. Lead with value. This seems obvious, but almost everyone does this wrong. The most common mistake people make is trying to mask a value take as a value give. The quintessential one is, I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee and pick your brain. That's not leading with value. $5 for an hour of someone's time is a bad deal. One red flag to the other person that you're not really leading with value is how often they hear you say I.
Yes.
For example, in this next clip, a Logan Paul fan snuck into an event to try to get a job, and Logan actually gives him a chance to pitch himself. Watch this as an example of what not to do.
No, Larry, I just need to talk to you. I'm trying to talk to your brother. I'm trying to talk about business, trying to get a job. Like I want to do media. I've been trying to get.
What are you good at?
I was 70 dances. I did like
What's
that.
your TikTok
I did that video, like going like that. Yeah, you know.
Oh, so you really got what it takes.
I don't.
Then why would I
need a mentor.
Well, why would I do that?
Totally fair question by Logan, and in response, the guy continues to talk in I, and he makes another common mistake. Listen to this next clip and see if you can spot it.
Life isn't about handouts. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I'm
you
not
gotta
trying to
work.
get a handout. I'm not trying to get
What
a handout.
are you trying to do?
I'm trying to work hard for a little money. I don't know. I can get a job somewhere else. All I want to move to LA, and I want to be able to be part of it.
Look, I have to go.
This may seem counterintuitive, but most successful people aren't interested in undefined free work. So if you want to work with someone you admire, get specific on how you can help them. A good framework to use is, I have such and such past experience, which will let me do X for you, where X is something that you know from researching them that they actually value. If you're meeting people at an event, a great line to instantly find out what people value is, so what were you hoping to get out of this event? Starting like this feels organic and clues you in on how you can help them. Do this and you'll be amazed at how many great relationships you make. The absolute best way to lead with value is to give value without asking for anything in return.
Yes.
A good example.
I like how this is, calling it give value. This is like the typical business speak terms of this. The way I describe this is earning influence. Again, give value, take value. It's earning influence and it's spending influence. That's what's actually happening. That's kind of the silliness of this and why I'm really trying to raise the awareness. He's saying lead with value. What are you talking about? Earning influence and spending influence. The problem with that person was they were trying to spend influence that they didn't have. You'll notice at the very beginning of that video, Here, let's go. It's not worth it. You'll notice at the very beginning of that video, the one where the guy was trying to pitch Logan Paul, he was able to get the person's attention and able to make a number of as they're calling it, I statements or whatever. It's not about I. Okay, that's a way to talk about it, but that's not what's actually happening. What's happening is every single sentence that the person is saying is spending influence. That's how talking works, and attention. And when you're in real life and real attention, you're taking someone's attention, it costs you. So unless you're providing value, giving value as they call it, you're actually spending the budget of their time. It doesn't matter whether it's some celebrity, it doesn't matter if they're higher status, lower status, it does not matter. The more of your time that you take that you're not providing value, you're actually taking influence. You're spending the influence balance you have with them. Now, what I wanted to point here is that they actually have a balance at starting even when you don't know them. Most people they're not consciously aware of this. You have a balance with every person on planet Earth, and they will give you something. I could go to, what's his name? I could go to Putin right now in Russia, and I actually have a balance that I could go start spending. Now, if I'm going to do like this person, I'm going to be spending my balance very quickly. And you'll notice he starts getting irritated, just starts bubbling up. I put a little graph in here in my book about this. Let me pull it up. So it's such an important concept. See if we can get that right. So on the left here, or on this side, we got kind of this chart here, and this is what you want, right? So if you're perfectly earning and spending, you have this kind of over time, you'll gain more and more. So what you want is you want a balance. You want a difference. The dark color is what you earn, and then what you spend would be that light balance. As you go throughout time, you're earning more and more, and you're spending more, but your balance remains high. Now, the problem is influence earned but spent poorly and too often, it does this. The amount that is spent is this black part here. And the amount that's earned, actually the amount that's earned is this black part, and the amount that's spent is this other part. Well, it starts popping out and it goes over the top, backfires, relationship tensions. It all comes from overspending. That's how it works. You have to put in value. You have to care what other people care about. They have to know that you care about what their thing is. This give value. Forget this stupid business talk. You are either earning influence or you're spending influence. And what they're trying to say right here, right now, is you need to earn influence. And one way to earn influence, as they're saying, is don't spend the influence. That's what, without asking for anything in return, just earn influence.
This was Mr. Beast with PewDiePie.
I spent all my money on ads so he can remain the #1 most subscribed to channel in the world.
It's the day of the Super Bowl, and these are our blankets. And if for some reason they confiscate the blankets, we're wearing sub to PewDiePie shirts. We will advertise PewDiePie to 100 million people today.
Now, most of us can't buy billboards or Super Bowl tickets just to connect with someone. So here's a quick example from a friend of mine that anyone can copy.
This is just the wackiness that is today.
A big YouTuber he admired was interested in reading a particular book, but hadn't gotten around to it. So my friend bought the book in hard copy, then went to their next live event, waited around after, and gave it to them. It wasn't expensive, but it showed thoughtfulness and initiative, which got the YouTuber interested in at least talking more to my friend. They ended up giving him an internship and eventually a full-time job. Now, if you want to make multiple people want to connect with you at the same time, you can combine being a beacon and leading with value by hosting events. Mr. Beast is a good example of someone who does this very well.
This is the largest stadium in the world, and inside are the 10 biggest creators on YouTube.
This is $1 million, and whichever one of them I find last keeps it. Yeah!
Imagine you're an influencer who gets that invite. You get to have fun, meet awesome people, and potentially win $1 million. Of course, you're going to say yes. This lets Mr. Beast invite and connect with whoever he wants. And you can do this on a smaller scale by starting a club, fundraiser, or meetup that people want to attend or speak at. Now, leading with value is important, especially when you're trying to get the attention of someone whose attention is in high demand. But it's equally important not to forget the human element. Connecting with someone you admire shouldn't be transactional. So don't focus on connecting with people just because you think they can help you get famous or make you money. Don't be the person who emails Ben and Chris at Charisma on Demand. Aim for people you have a genuine interest in. Also, one quick tip for when you do connect, abandon first instinct questions. Make a list of the questions you think the person gets asked by most people. Then throw that list in the trash.
That's a good tip. That's a good tip.
Bored of hearing the same questions over and over. So ask something original, something they'll be excited to answer. Beyond that, the best thing you can do is stop hero worship. For someone who's rich or famous, it's easy.
All right, I got to hit this one. Stop hero worship. When I was in Afghanistan, I got to spend an inordinate amount of time, and I was 23 years old as a corporal. I got to spend a lot of time around the commanding general, his staff of colonels. I think he was a 1-star at the time, 1-star general. And no, he was a 2-star. He's a brigadier general. And, well, no, that'd be a major general. I think it was a 1-star. And he had, this was General Nicholson and his chief of staff. And I'll never forget, this is something that has propelled me for my entire life. And this is always good to remind myself. I probably say this once a month, maybe once a quarter, this stuff right here, to continually remind myself of this. It's crazy to me because people are playing these like scripts. What I realized when I was in Afghanistan working with these people is that they're people. They're just people. And guess what? They have all the flaws, all of the quirkiness, all of the incompetencies. They have all of those things. This is not knocking on General Nicholson and his staff by any stretch of the imagination, right? By any stretch of the imagination. But all of a sudden I realized that barrier and that illusion was just gone. They're just people. And they just have a role to play, and they're filling those roles, and maybe they worked a little harder to get there and some of these things, but like a YouTuber, like why people would ever get like all like, ooh, a YouTuber. They literally just film themselves and they talk about the dumbest stuff. Sorry, I'm not the biggest fan of YouTubers in the sense of, they do the, let me comment on the day's stuff. These trivial, trinkety type things. That's what a lot of these people do. Like this Logan Paul person, I've seen his videos and they're bad. He's the kind of person whom I realize that I need to find out how to mentor that person because their leadership skills are terrible. They're absolutely terrible. They're actually wasting so many people's lives, failing to realize this because they have not grown up yet to actually realize the stupidity of the things that they do. The amount of opportunity that they waste doing it and that they're doing this. And it's just kind of like the problem with this video overall is it lacks purpose. How to impress someone of higher status. Why? Why should you? I know they're doing the YouTube thing, so they're trying to mesh with like SEO type stuff, things like that. And I can appreciate that. But the question is, why? Why impress somebody of a higher status? That's almost more important than the how. The how is not that important. And if anything, a lot of this is kind of like, don't do this. This is like shooting you in the foot. But the why is more important. And for a lot of people, like, for example, if I impress them, then I'll get a job. Dude, just go get a job. Go get a job. Like, what exactly are you trying to do? Well, I'm trying to learn how to do this stuff. Learn how to do it. Almost everything. Like, it's kind of funny. All these videos that are always like, I want to learn how to do media. Anybody could do media. Everybody has a smartphone. They say this like, Gary Vaynerchuk's and the what's his name? Grant Cardone and these types. They say it all the time. Just pick up your phone and just start. Just do it. Everybody's got a smartphone. Everybody could do it. You don't hear people saying, hopping on these videos like, I'm trying to figure out how to do satellites to Jupiter. That's not what people are doing. The people who are trying to do that stuff, there's a pathway and they take the pathway. They might ask that question. It's always like a question of like, how do you get somewhere? That's one of the most common questions that people have. That's fine. But What's lacking here is the context of why you might want to do these things, and might even be why you ought not to. It's not always the case that somebody of a higher status and impressing them has any value on your life. It's just kind of like get rich for the purpose of getting rich. Okay, that's nice. That guy had his moment in the limelight. You can see what happened. He had no real purpose to do it.
Them laugh. At the end of the day, the person you want to connect with is just a person. So
just a
once you've
person.
followed the steps in this video and given yourself the best chance to reach them, let your personality shine through. Now, if you want to be better at making amazing first impressions so that you can go into these conversations confident that if you do get a chance to talk with someone, they'll definitely want to see you again, you may like our program, Charisma University. It's a step-by-step guided program.
All right, so that's it. How to impress someone of higher status. I don't really have anything further to say on it. My biggest pull away from this is like, it's okay. You know, find a low traffic connection, be a beacon, lead with value. You know, abandon first instinct questions, stop hero worship. I mean, these are all reasonable tips, little tricks and tips on meeting somebody of higher status. I've come to find, this is my one last kind of maybe kind of spiritual comment of the day. I've come to find that, I was saying this earlier, the world will give you whatever you want. But I go a little bit further. It will give you what you need. And until you need these things, like, if the person wants a job, like let's go back to that one person. The person wants a job and they want to learn media. That's all fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the reality is you don't need a YouTuber at that level to get that. And therefore, you won't get that. That's not how it works. The world is always, again, it's always kind of configuring around. It's kind of configuring around to do these different things to give you these things, but the resources are only going to come in coordination with the things that you actually need the resources for. It's just like a magical property of the world. The world will not give you resources just for you to have resources. It just isn't how it works. The people who are wealthy and doing all these fun, wealthy things, they've literally shaved off small percentages of the total amount of resources that come their way for them to be able to go and do that. So the value that they're providing is so large, or the opportunities that they created are so large that they can shave off small bits of that. The reality is the smaller you are, or the further you are down the curve, the more you can't really shave. It's more difficult to shave off in order to live off of, and it's more like you need to live off of what you primarily have, and then you can shave down stuff. This is where like savings and things come in. But the resources, like they just don't come in to serve you. That's just not how resources work. That's not how resources are distributed. This is the silliness of the politics of the day. I mean, these politics, like the gimme politics, as I'll call it, it goes back who the heck knows how far. And it just comes from this complete lack of awareness that resources come. The right kinds of resources are funneled into the areas of which they are actually appropriate to fill. The reason why certain people aren't getting resources is because they don't need that. They need something else. A lot of people actually need spiritual resources. They need confidence. They need personal development. They need that long before they need $1 million for their crappy business idea. They don't need that. They might need $1 million down the road. Like, this is another thing. Like, a lot of people will start a business and they fail to realize, like, hey, you want to take a $2 million loan out or something. They don't give you $2 million. They find out how much you need every month. And then they will give you that. They will trickle feed you that money to do whatever you need to do. And they're not going to give it to you ahead of time. Money and resources, they literally are streamed out. And they're streamed out, and the people are fine-tooth picking in managing and combing these resources so that they go into the right locations, because we only have finite resources. I don't care if you're a billionaire. The kinds of things that they're trying to do, it's so funny thinking about like Elon Musk, like, trying to go to Mars. The dude has nowhere near the resources necessary to be able to go and do that. I mean, no one talks about this mission to Mars anymore, which I got to tell you, Elon, if you care about that, you better pivot off this stupidity and go back to that, because in reality, the only way you're ever going to do that is if you have to constantly be channeling the resources there, or it'll never show up, because it doesn't warrant it. It just doesn't warrant it. And until it warrants it, the resources don't show up. So that's it on my React videos. Let's move on to a different topic. What I have is I wanted to go over my 5 favorite leadership and influence books. I was looking at my bookshelf over here on the side and just letting it kind of call out to me, like, what are my favorite books? And I figured I'd pull a couple of them off the shelf and I'd talk about them. So I've got them in no particular order, but here's one right here. This was a really big book for me. It's called Marine Rifleman. It was written by Colonel Fox. It was an autobiography. Colonel Wesley Fox, retired. He's now dead. Medal of Honor recipient for Vietnam. He also went to the Korean War. I don't remember all of the necessary details in this, but there was something I learned from this that was so powerful about leadership that it was just, it really touched my soul, and it mapped onto something that I had been thinking and I had not experienced while I was in the Marine Corps. Marine Corps. And, but I had seen in this. And so at one point in time, while my dad was in the Marine Corps, and I was also in the Marine Corps, I should say this regularly so people remember this. He actually was the commanding officer of OCS, I think, while my dad was there for like a staff course or something like that. So it wasn't that long ago that he was actually in, and he was leading the officer candidate school. Now, one of the stories that he has in it is just so awesome. I guess I should keep holding up the book. One of the stories, there's like 3 or 4 that come to mind. Reading his book made me realize that really loving and caring about people is not just okay, but it is a core key component to leading people. And I had started to come to this kind of realization that I needed to change the way that I viewed people, and that I needed to have a very, very deep sense of connection to them, like a very deep connection. And when you're in the Marine Corps, at least I was in from 2004 to 2010. These are some interesting years. You should go and look them up. This was a tough branch, and it felt very dog eat dog. And I would say that the Marine Corps ought not ever be dog eat dog. And what dog eat dog means is you're on your own. You better do as best as you can, and you better outcompete everybody here, because that's all anybody cares about is whether or not you're in the ranking and you're the top person in terms of actual capability and performance, not leadership capability, maybe not even per se effectiveness, but in just like various things. I got very bitter about this, things of like cutting scores. They're like hiring people, or they're like raising people up because they can run well. What does that have to do with the fact of whether or not you have a brain to do intelligence? It's absolutely insane to me. But another rant for another day. This isn't a rant. This is about this man who has and will continue to impact people long after his death. Now, the story that he had in here that like really brought it up was this dude was while he was at OCS as the commanding officer, he would run the physical fitness test with them, and he would run the 3 miles, and he would beat most of the people there, other than the few, kids who were like crazy triathlon, like runner types, like marathon runners who were just like the best. He would beat everybody. And this guy's a colonel he's probably in his 50s, been to multiple wars, I mean, it had been blown up, all sorts of stuff. And, well, at least I think it's been blown up. Anyways, I shouldn't say too much, but he would run and he would beat these people, and he would get all the way to the end. And instead of like going off and doing whatever he's going to do, he would stay at the end and cheer everybody on. He makes it very clear that he was like very excited for everybody there. He really wanted them to do well, and he wanted to see that he was there cheering them on. That is huge. No one does that. No one except like real intentional leaders. This is a phenomenal book from that. It's such a great read. All right, let's see here. This was another one. Oh, this black book. The Tao Te Ching. I've got... How many copies of this do I have? Here's another Tao Te Ching. Let's see. I think I have 5 copies of the Tao Te Ching. And if you don't know, the Tao Te Ching is we'll call it the foundational document of Taoism. And I definitely believe that this is a phenomenal book on leadership and influence. And I have 5 versions of this book because the book is, it was written in ancient Chinese. And let me see, this book's kind of cool. It's got like, it's got it broken out into individual chapters. They're real easy to read. They're like little tiny pages, single pages on a particular topic. And this was just a good book. I've got 5 different translations of it. I will say some of the translations are a little bit different, but they'll do different kind of stuff. And I do believe that the meaning of the words actually kind of changes. But I felt that if I read enough versions of these, I could read between the lines and get the actual essence of it, reading through, interpreting multiple at kind of the same time, the same kind of lens. And this book on Taoism, it centers you in a spiritual aspect of kind of like an understanding of kind of how things weave together at the highest levels. And what it does is it uses that to kind of, I would argue it's kind of a logical steps of like, therefore you should do this, and this from the original premise. And one of those things is how you treat people. Now there was this great quote. Let me see if I can. Oh yeah, here we go. There's so many great quotes here. And so here's one on, oh yeah, man, this is this is the real stuff. By the way, this is written, I think in 500 BC. I think that's when this was written, 2000 BC. I can't quite remember. It is old, very old. Definitely predates the New Testament and many of these other things. So anyways, fine weapons are ill-omened tools. They are hated. Therefore, the old Taoists ignore them. At home, honor the left. In war, honor the right. Weapons are ill-omened tools, not proper instruments. When their use can't be avoided, calm restraint is best. Don't think they are beautiful. Those who think they are beautiful rejoice in killing people. Those who rejoice in killing people cannot achieve their purpose in the world. Good omens honor the left. Bad omens honor the right. The lieutenant on the left, the general on the right, as in funeral ceremonies. When many people are killed, we feel sorrow and grief. A great victory is a funeral ceremony. Now, that was just kind of a random one, but there's some great leadership quotes in there. Highly recommended. Let's see what else is on my shelf. This one right here, The 21 Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. This is such an awesome, fun read. I will say that there's some parts of the book that I'm not a big fan of. I'm kind of not fan of the overall style of the book, but it's still good. What I love about it is actually the system. And in the back of the book, which, oh, man, this is such a great aspect of the book. Let me see. Okay. Apparently there's always previews of his other books in there. Okay. So he has this. Appendix A, 21 Laws Leadership Evaluation. I love this test. And what it does is when you take this test and you really internalize what the test is trying to do, and you try to answer the questions as best as you possibly can, what you'll come out of it is you'll find out which are the top things, the top traits and behaviors that you have naturally that people are influenced by. It's interesting, but it's so true. My wife and I, we've taken this many times over time to see kind of like our progress and if things have kind of changed and shifted around a little bit. And there's 21 different traits and behaviors in here. And my three top ones is victory, it is influence, and it is, let me see, what's the other one? Definitely not process. Intuition. So those are the three things for me. So what it means is people are influenced most. Like getting an understanding of my strongest strengths. There are three things. Number one is influence. Understanding that to move people, they're moved by influence. I know it. I can't not see it. The second thing is victory. I want to win. And you'll never be mistaken of this fact. You will never see me ever not try to win. Ever. This is mission oriented. I'm trying to win. I will force myself to go towards victory, towards winning, even if I don't think that there's value in it. That would be the bad side to victory. The third thing is intuition. And intuition being my ability to kind of understand things without having like concrete evidence of whatever it is, and making decisions based on not having this information. A lot of people have a hard time with it, but it doesn't matter. There's other things that you can be influential with that you do already. Everybody's influential in some capacities, but you need to know what your strengths are. This book is a great one for this. Such a great one. My wife, for example, she has law of addition. People like her. She can command that they come to her parties that she puts together. She can set up events. She's having all the successes, and whether she realizes it or not, and it comes from this addition thing. Addition being she adds value to people. And so she spends a good bit of her time thinking about like what other people want and giving people these things and all that kind of stuff. I don't do that. I'm very low in those numbers. That's not how people are. And people are not influenced by the fact that it's like, you know what? Mike's a really nice guy. He just buys us gifts all the time. And I don't do that at all. I'm not that person at all. I will do that from time to time, but that's not my natural strengths. My natural strengths are convincing you that if you follow my direction, you have a high chance of winning. You have a high chance of success. All right, let's see what else is on the list. I was trying to find this one. Let me see if it's on my desk. No, I don't have it on me, but it's called Thunder in the Sky, and particularly Master of Demon Valley. And I really like this book. It's like it was written at the same time or around the same time as the Tao Te Ching was written, and it was written in a very similar kind of spirit as my influence and leadership book. It's not it's about influence, but it's about again, we're dealing with like kind of like old, ancient Chinese wisdom on how to work with people depending on context and time. And it gives it kind of like real pithy, real dense, kind of small statements. Like when it's this, do this. I love that book. You can pretty much only find it on Amazon, and it's a totally nondescript, tiny little book. It's a really good book. Lastly, I don't have it on my desk here. Here, let me go get it. Okay, so the last book that I've got, live television, definitely walking away from it, is the Gospels. This is a printing of just the Gospels, not the entirety of the New Testament. You can see here. And I love the Gospels. This is like, this is a nice book, nice kind of version of it. Let me see. I think this thing has like kind of like a cool little, artwork in the beginning here. The Gospels is one of the most influential books in all of human history, which should tell you something that if you want to study influence, you better study this book. You better study the Bible. And studying not just the Bible and just it in its sense, very important to do that, but study its connection to people and study how it's connected. I would definitely say suspend all of your, if you have it, some people do, suspend, if you have any kind of silly preconceived notion about it, you need to drop that so that you have the objective ability to see and understand why this book is so influential. Now, I'll tell you what really drove me to read it and become obsessed with studying this book was just the realization. Okay, the events that unfolded here happened in BC, like 50 BC, something like that. The written word, man, I should not go down this. This is perilous. Anybody who's a Bible scholar that's better than me is going to light me up. But it was not written for hundreds of years. It was verbally given up to that point. Now, what I want to talk about this book is the fact that you can read it. This is the magic of it. You can read it and make immense amount of sense about your life right now from this book. When books do that, to me, it's magical. And when we're talking about influence, like influencing people and leading people, and a book can do that, it can give you tips, like just direct tips. When this is happening, do this. It doesn't give you a lot of explanation of why, okay? I'll tell you that. I'm pretty good at picking out the why, but it does tell you to do it. And what's interesting about it is people get like average results in the behaviors that they do. And the reason is because they're doing average ways of doing it. They're doing it the same way that most people would think about doing any kind of thing. The thing about this book is it tells you how to do things differently, and they're doing things. And as a result, they get different results. Guess what? This is one of the most influential books of all time. What does that tell you? You should consider doing things differently. Now, there's been so many times that the parables in here and some of the basic teachings, my favorite being the Sermon on the Mount, there's all these things like you do this, it really needs to be this. In this circumstance, you need to do that. To me, I love that stuff. And the reality being is I can see how poorly I'm performing as a result, because those situations actually to excel, to do really well in those circumstances requires you to think differently about it. The only way you can do that is you have to see and experience it and get that kind of revelation of how to do it, and then step out and do it and see for yourself that you get different results. That's why I love these books. That's why I like leadership books. John Maxwell and all of them. I see, from Colonel Fox's book, I'm now going to have a more empathetic approach to man and their struggles regardless. I had a pretty reasonable one before, but now it's like I got to take a hearty step back from time to time and cheer people on as they're running across the finish line, whether they're first or last. Okay, so that's that. So the next section, what I wanted to go into is I wanted to talk about when leadership fails. What is it? What happens? What's going on when leadership fails? Okay. The videos that we were watching from Charisma University, they kind of go into this where they're talking about, you're trying to connect with a person and it's not hitting and all this kind of stuff. The question is why? When is leadership failing? Your attempt at leadership. I'll tell you, there's 3 things. There are only 3 things. And that's because These are the three primary components of leadership. There's vision, there's earning influence, and there's spending influence. And leadership fails when any one of those three things is not functioning. If you don't have a vision, or your vision's not quite, I don't want to say it's not right. If you don't have a vision, or you have a poor vision, you are going to run into all the perils of manipulation. When you don't, it's the vision that actually is influencing and driving people, right? That the person that we watched in that video, they were trying to influence the YouTuber to get them a job. They wanted the vision of getting the job and learning the skills, not the person. The person is like the means of how to go do it. But they had a vision problem where their vision was not very big. So the techniques that they were trying to do were just poorly executed. Okay, if they had a better vision, he could have been a bumbling blockhead and say, I'm trying to feed people in my neighborhood, and that person would have been drawn in more because of the vision. It's a vision problem is always manipulation. And in the case of like you don't really have a real vision and it's obvious, people will just tune out. Now, if you conceal that your vision is for your own benefit, you're now engaging in like masked manipulation. Masked being the people who are seeing it and putting out their efforts don't know that it's manipulation. They inevitably will find out. So that's when leadership fails. When there's a vision problem. It can also be an earning influence problem. This is the second most common thing. Most people don't have a vision. That's why nobody will do things, or they haven't articulated something as a vision. Instead, they're communicating something like, my favorite go-to is taking out the trash. If you have a vision like, hey, I want to live in a house that's clean and it smells nice and such. That is the vision that can capture it. So when you say, hey, are you willing, can you take out the trash? They're going to go, yeah. And the reason is not because you're asking them, but because they're going towards the vision. But if you don't articulate that why, that thing that you're looking to have, that vision, it just looks like, well, this person's just bothering me. No, they're bothering me to help. They're bothering me for the purposes of making my life better. So if I want my life to be better, I will follow what they're saying. That's what vision does. Earning influence is a separate problem. Earning influence is leadership will fail when a person has not earned the kind of influence that they need to get something done. And normally, influence is earned a little over time and then in punctuated events. And so I would call it like continual and strategic. Strategic being, I'm going to intentionally earn influence with this person in a particular kind of way. First, I'm just going to do kind of good things for this person. I'm going to look out for this person. I'm going to think about this person. I'm going to give them a back rub, whatever. It does not matter. Well, it matters to the person whom you're trying to influence. If you haven't earned enough influence, the way that leadership fails is all of a sudden you get pushback. That same person in that video, they were starting to get a bunch of pushback from this YouTuber because every time they made a statement, they were actually spending a little bit of influence, but they never earned any influence. And so at some point in time, that person is just like, you're stealing from me. We do it naturally. We don't even know it. But that's what's actually happening. They've overspent the influence that they actually have. And what it ends up creates relationship sparks. People get mad, people get frustrated, they get like tired. They just you can see with like kids. Kids will be too needy, they'll ask for too many things, and it will tax the heck out of even a parent who, wants to help their child, but they will get too taxed. It's reality. Third thing that you could do that you can see when leadership fails is they fail to spend their influence. Now, this is not as common, but it is out there. It's people whom they're doing a bunch of things that they're earning influence with people out there, but they're not directing that person that they've earned influence with to engage with something like a vision, right? So maybe they got a vision, they kind of kept it quiet, but they've got it, they're working towards it, they're earning influence people, but they're never really directing people towards that. Well, as a result, they're never really gaining the snowball. They're never able to actually ask for bigger and bigger sums of effort because they haven't put in the time, energy, and effort. The people who are like the top like podcasters and YouTubers and stuff, especially over time, they put in so much time and they put in so much value that the listeners, if they're still listening or they've been listening kind of long enough, they're almost willing to do anything that the person says because they've been given so much. But they have to use it. And if they don't, eventually it just doesn't work out. You could call this somebody who's obsessed with too much altruism. And altruism does not create the conditions. For example, being altruistic, it can influence people to be a little bit more altruistic, but until you ask for people to become altruistic, they will not become altruistic. i.e., they will do things for other people. It is not until you ask them to do those things that they go through the muscle memory and they go through these actions will they do that. This is leadership 101. Leadership fails when the person who is leading does not ask for anything. They do not spend. So it's not true that the best thing is to give, and never ask. Give a lot, but ask. And as you give more, you can ask for more. And you should. You absolutely should. And the reason is because you have a vision. If you've got a vision, you need to request the resources to happen on the vision in order for it to happen. And that's it. Those are the three things that happen when leadership fails. You either have a vision problem, you have an earning influence problem, or you have a spending influence problem. I wanted to try to share, if it's even possible, share some images of the new shed, a little bit of updates on the studio. You know, we've got this going, we're getting a little bit higher quality here, but it's getting ready to get a lot nicer. I've started plotting out like a bunch of equipment to use towards the podcast. You know, this new microphone, that's a first start. We're going to be getting like some audio processing stuff. We're going to get a new camera. We're going to get like a good lighting setup, and it's all going to be set up. I'm going to have like a whiteboard behind me. I mean, I know I have kind of this thing, but that's not going to work. But I'm so excited about this new setup to be able to make this podcast just like even better and like tons of value for you, especially to teach about leadership. Let me see if I can pull up some images and get it to work. There it is. All right. So here's the shed. It's actually, this is basically a shed to office conversion. It's gonna look freaking awesome. It's partially buried underground, so it's gonna have good kind of contact there, and it's basically uninsulated. So the guy who I was just talking to earlier that was kind of, I had to go run out there. He started putting all the insulation on the ceiling, and I went out there and looked great. And there's lights going down the middle. All right. Okay. So we got a couple pictures here. Let me put this right here in the center so you can see. So this is kind of the French doors that we put on. This is me. You can see me in the window taking a picture. Kind of the side here, we wired up the sides. That's all good to go. These are the lights going right down the middle. And the center is going to be kind of this small ceiling fan because it's going to get hot in there in the summer. I can already tell. This is my Ethernet wiring setup that, I ran my own Ethernet. This is Cat 6A, if you know anything about that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I can actually get 10 gigabyte network speeds, which means I can move 10 gigs of data a second. That's a lot. But when you're recording videos like this, and once we move to 4K, we might be moving hundreds and hundreds of gigabytes across the network here. It's going to get kind of crazy. All right, let's look at these other pictures. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of that same picture that you can kind of see there. Oh, yep, there's that. I kind of showed that. Yeah, this is the other side. It's basically two windows, a bunch of outlets on each side. I'm going to have Ethernet hardwired with basically plugs. They basically just plug right into the wall on all sides of there. And then just kind of this one picture I took in the back. We're gonna have a light. Now, one of the things that you can't see here is on the front left of this. I'm actually going to put a light. And the whole studio is actually connected where I'll be able to flick a switch and turn on all of the recording equipment. So I can turn it on and off at the same time, and it's all going to be pre-set up. So each one of these boxes, these electrical boxes, they're going to have a port that when you click the switch, it's all going to just come on. That way, and in the front here, there's going to be a light that's posted that one would actually be able to see that, hey, I'm recording, or I have got my recording equipment on, do not interrupt. I'm so pumped about this. In the back, which it's basically this back wall here, which would basically be behind me. Can't really see it real well. You can see back here, that straight back wall, I'm going to put a giant whiteboard. And on that whiteboard, we can do whiteboard sessions to actually break down some of the leadership concepts and be able to create the courses that I'm really looking to create. Super pumped. So this is happening in real time while I'm doing a million other things, working a full-time job, 4 kids. We got our farm going here soon. We're actually going to be back to producing produce, building sanctuary leadership. And I've got a couple other irons in the fire as well. So I'm real pumped about that stuff. All right. The last thing that we're going to do before we break or before we exit is I've got another quote. This is one of my favorite quotes, not because I love it, but it's a good quote. It's just a good quote. It's a good starting place to talk about leadership. So this is John Maxwell. Love John Maxwell. I've got 5 or 6 of his books. He's got like 100 books. There's no way I'm going to read every John Maxwell book. They're not that good. Sorry, John, but they're not that good. But they're good collections of information and good things to kind of pull from. So I'm thankful that he's kind of put these collections together. So here's the quote. Leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. Now, I used to believe this for a while. And then when I started to really break down leadership, especially make it in such a way that it's very accessible, that could really action on, I changed my opinion about this. And the reason is I believe manipulation uses influence. So somehow manipulation would then need to be leadership, by, I'm not a mathematician, but whatever the law is, I think it's a transitive property that if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Well, I can tell you right now, leadership is not manipulation, but I would definitely, because, if leadership equals influence, I would dare say you would have to say influence equals manipulation, but leadership does not equal manipulation. Therefore, one of those things is not true. And I would say leadership is not equal to influence, and influence is also not equal to manipulation. What I would say is influence is the mechanism that leadership uses. It is neutral. It does not matter if it's good or bad. You can influence somebody good. Think about it, a bad influence. So normally influence, I guess, is good, but you can have a bad influence. Well, a bad influence, what is that, John? Is that leadership? Is it bad leadership? Bad leadership, I would call manipulation. Or I would say inability to earn influence. Or I would say it's inability to spend influence. That's bad leadership. And maybe I need to come up with a name for them. I think I have, the first one's a manipulator if you don't have a vision. If you can't earn influence, I guess you're just, I don't know what the term for that would be. But the third thing, if you can't spend influence, you're just too altruistic. This is a good chewy topic, but it's not true. It's not true. Leadership is not influence. Leadership uses influence. Now, I would also say Now, this is the conviction of my belief on this topic. I believe leadership came first, then manipulation came about it, and influence exists because leadership exists. And it's very weird to say that, because if you stop long enough and you think about it, that it's like if the common denominator between the two is influence, therefore influence had to come first. I would say no. I would say influence works because people believe in leadership. The natural way that people act, the reason because they become influenced is because of leadership. I would also argue that people can be manipulated because leadership exists. That's why they can be manipulated. That's why people can be influenced, because leadership exists. But it is not the same thing. Or it is, it doesn't matter. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm trying to slice these very fine and try to create real fine, tight categories. It's a very rational approach to it. But if you just kind of smear it all together and look at it kind of the big level, yeah, John Maxwell's quote is good. And it's good enough. And John Maxwell's trying to make things real easy, and he's making it real easy for people to just kind of jump and step right in. So I very much appreciate John Maxwell for that. Well, that's the end of this podcast. That's all the time I've got. I hope you found a lot of value in this. These React videos, I like doing them. I like viewing some of this content in real time with you, so I can be very honest and authentic with it. I hope you enjoyed that John Maxwell quote. If you have any videos you want me to take a look at, if you want, if you found some great quotes, send them my way. I'd love to take a look at them. Put comments, down below. I will respond to them. If you got any questions, I would love to incorporate questions in here, and I would love to start getting to the point where we can actually talk about your leadership and influence needs, what you're actually out there, who you're leading, who you're influencing, what you're trying to do, what visions are you bringing into the world, and then helping to diagnose some of these problems. And I'm hoping that this podcast can help you do that. My name is Mike Cornwell, and this is Be the Leader podcast. And my message is always the same: be the leader. Have a great day.